Imagine the following scene and be brutally honest with yourself. See if it hasn't already repeated itself dozens of times in your life. It's 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. Your house is in absolute silence. You're lying in the darkness of your room with only the cold light of your cell phone hitting your face. You put on your headphones, and the algorithm almost magically throws you into one of those old compilation videos. A home video, somewhat blurry, with that grainy VHS tape texture. The image shows ordinary people, back in the 80s or 90s, laughing in a park, riding bicycles with boxy cars in the background, while a slow synthwave song or a melancholic jazz track with vinyl crackles plays. Come with me on this magnificent journey. You watch those simple people, and suddenly, an invisible chemical jolt hits your stomach. A thick knot, the kind that almost closes your throat, forms all at once. Your eyes fill with tears in the darkness, and a devastating melancholy crushes your chest. A deep sadness hits you, along with an almost uncontrollable, visceral desire to step into that grainy screen, live in that time, breathe that air, and never return to your current life. There's just one small, terrifying detail in all this intense physical and emotional reaction. You were born in the 2000s or in the late 1990s. Your brain is manufacturing real pain, a heavy grief, the most authentic longing in the world for a time when, ironically, you didn't even exist. How on earth can the human brain cry for a house it never lived in? Psychology and linguistics had to give an exact and painfully poetic name to this malfunction in your nervous system: anemoia, the paralyzing nostalgia for a time not lived. If you carry this chronic feeling of having been born in the wrong decade, I bet the internet has already trivialized your pain. People say you're just a deluded pop culture fan who likes vintage aesthetics. The more mystical will swear up and down that you carry an old soul. But let me take this superficial romanticization, throw it in the trash for a minute, and reveal a brutal neuroscientific truth that will punch you in the gut and, at the same time, embrace your soul. Your anemoia has absolutely nothing to do with the past. Your unhealthy love for the 80s or 90s isn't about the era itself. In fact, this phantom nostalgia is a severe, screaming, and desperate diagnosis from your brain about the complete, unsustainable, and exhausting failure of your present. Today, we're going to enter the laboratory of this brilliant illusion together. I'm going to clinically prove to you why your brain envies the people on those cassette tapes, and I'm going to show you that the cure for this phantom grief is to reclaim the most violated human right of the 21st century: your right to disappear. So take a deep breath, turn down the volume of the outside world for a few minutes, and come with me. To untie the knot of this longing that suffocates your heart in the early hours of the morning, we first need to understand your greatest enemy. The fuel for your pain isn't the charm of the past, it's the absolute terror of tomorrow's unpredictability. We are the first generation in human history to be thrust into the age of infinite information and an apocalyptic future. You wake up every single day bombarded with notifications of distant wars, relentless financial crises, new pandemics, and the terrifying promise that artificial intelligence could steal your job within the next 2 years. Your life is an overwhelming sea of uncertainty. The future is no longer a promise of hope. It has become a monster that demands preparation and maximum productivity 24 hours a day. You live in survival mode, with your amygdala screaming danger all the time. And for a hyper-vigilant mind, already exhausted and terrified of surprises, where do you run when the present burns and the future frightens you? Neuroscience answers very clearly. Your brain flees to the unshakable safety of what has already happened. The past has a magnetic and addictive quality called retrospective certainty. When you look back at the 80s or 90s, there are no unknown viruses or crises erupting unexpectedly, simply because the story is already over. The script for that decade has already been written, filmed, and shelved. Nothing scary will come out of that VHS tape. And your brain, in a brilliant self-preservation trick, acts like a desperate film editor. It surgically erases all the misfortunes, the Cold Wars, and the lack of medicine of that era, and edits a hyper-romantic simulation. It creates an artificial Eden, a bubble of absolute calm. Synthetic nostalgia injects a massive dose of dopamine into your bloodstream and lowers your cortisol instantly. You cry watching an old video because it's the only mental landscape where your body can relax its muscles, knowing that no urgent notification will burst onto your phone screen in 5 seconds. The invented past is your neurological panic room. And I know perfectly well how cold, lonely, and suffocating it is to live awake inside a modern body with your heart tied to a slow, dead time. I know that the feeling of not belonging to today's bizarre speed crushes you. And since your primal instinct, when exhaustion hits, is to search in the darkness of your room for a time capsule where the world doesn't demand your success or your immediate response, I have a crucial invitation for your mental survival. Transform this channel into your safe haven, your official analog refuge, and click the subscribe button right now. Do you know why this is the most compassionate decision you can make for yourself today, using your own biology to your advantage? Because everything else on the internet, from frantic short videos to dance routines, has been meticulously designed to suck up your attention, accelerate your heartbeat, and throw you on a cheap dopamine treadmill that only worsens your anemoia. Here, the clock stops. By clicking this button, you send a regulatory command to your brain saying, "We've just found a pocket of resistance, a dark and slow room where psychology decodes my fears, without haste and without empty promises. Let me take on the hard and dense work of spending the early hours reading, analyzing the mind, and digesting human complexity for you. Your only moral obligation here is to exist in your own time. Press the button, sit at the back of our room, and know that in this channel, the world doesn't rush you, and I will never judge your silences." Secured your key to our capsule? Perfect. Because now we're going to deliver the most painful gut punch of the night and expose the true, passionate envy you feel for those people in the old tapes. Pay close attention to the real reason for your tears. When you sigh for life in the 90s, what makes you want to cry isn't the lack of colorful clothes, listening to music on a heavy Walkman, or renting tapes at the video store on Friday nights. His deepest pain, the true, morbid envy that crushes his chest, is the irreparable grief for his right to invisibility. Think of those smiling people in the old video, riding bicycles or sitting in a diner. Back then, if you left your house and slammed the door, you instantly became a reachable ghost to the rest of planet Earth. Literally, no one in the universe could access you. Your boss couldn't send a work audio message on a Sunday afternoon. A colleague couldn't see if you were online to demand an immediate response. Nobody knew where you were, and you didn't need to document your lunch to prove to strangers that you existed. Being on the street without a device tracking your location and your attention 24 hours a day was the natural state of human beings. The mental space of those people was clean, sovereign, indivisible. The lack of constant connection was a gift of peaceful isolation. Today, your generation has lost the right to the inviolability of attention. Silence, which used to be the norm, has become an almost impossible luxury. If you decide to turn off your cell phone for 4 hours because you just want to stare at the ceiling in peace, people don't think you're resting. They think you've been kidnapped, that you've had an accident, or even worse, that you're angry at them and acting like an antisocial sociopath. Our society has criminalized the act of being disconnected. Your brain lives in a terrifying state of vigilance, knowing that at any moment and from anywhere in the world, your pants pocket might vibrate, demanding a response from you that costs a toll of energy you no longer have in your tank. You have anemia because your primitive brain realized that technology has turned your life into a glass prison without doors. You flee to the analog past because there, and only there in your imagination, people couldn't reach you. You flee to the 80s to escape your cell phone. So how do we survive this phantom pain when the solution of throwing the device in the river and moving to a cabin in the middle of the forest is an impossible utopia that doesn't pay the bills? We will use the wisdom of pain to apply what pragmatic psychology calls the analog islands protocol. Stop fighting your anxiety and thinking you're deluded for feeling it. The longing that isn't yours isn't an illness, it's the most well-calibrated compass of needs you possess. It's pointing out exactly what your body urgently needs to avoid collapsing. If the urge to cry hits hard because in the past people read books sitting on the carpet without looking at screens, your task this week isn't to buy vintage clothes. Your clinical goal is to actively and forcefully forge small analog islands in your hyper-connected routine. This means having the rebellious courage to institute digital civil disobedience. It's about creating 2-hour blocks on your weekend where your cell phone simply doesn't